to mount on the two levels of government who are faced with the task of ensuring that health services do not come to a standstill. Raquel Muigai, Citizen TV.
And now to the latest twist in the Nairobi County leadership saga. And by latest twist, I mean one that happened about 15 minutes ago. We are in receipt of a notice from the clerk of the Nairobi County Assembly, notice to the public that the nominee of the nomination and vetting of the deputy county governor position, the vetting will take place on the 15th of January 2021. That just into our newsrooms. Let me give you some context to this. Earlier today, the High Court paved the way for that possible installation of a deputy governor in Nairobi and her probable swearing in as governor. The court allowed the withdrawal of a petition that sought to challenge the nomination of Anne Kananu Mwenda as deputy governor of the city county. The county assembly now says it is ready to vet Kananu for the position and potentially hand her the job of governor. Elfas Lagat reports on the new development and the heated legal arguments around it.
The court challenge had been mounted by a petitioner, Peter Agoro, effectively putting the vetting of Anne Kananu by the county assembly on hold, following a nomination by then-Governor Mike Sonko. But Sonko would be ousted before this matter reached determination. Now the petition has managed to convince Lady Justice Hedwig Ongudi that he no longer is interested in pursuing the case.
After considering all the material before me and the law, I find that there is no reason to make me disallow the petitioner's notice for withdrawal of the petition. It follows that the petition is hereby withdrawn and all the pending applications fall by the side as they have nothing to hang on. Each party shall bear his or her own costs.
The legal team of the impeached governor sought to block the withdrawal by filing a cross petition, which was knocked down by a technicality.
This court has been notified of a cross petition filed by Mr. Kenyan, who is appearing for the second respondent. This cross petition has not been paid for and so is not on record.
Client is concerned because it has now formally gone on record that he never filed a cross petition because allegedly there was no payment, which is not true, which is not accurate. That's why I needed it captured in the court record that we had paid on time as per the assessments and a receipt issued in confirmation. Then my client, the second respondent, should not be visited with injustice.
The ruling now means the County Assembly of Nairobi is free to vet Anne Kananu for the position of Deputy Governor. And the Majority Leader Abdi Guyo says they are already confirming to Citizen TV that the County Assembly of Nairobi received the name of Anne Kananu on February 17, 2020. The Majority Leader adding, quote, "We are guided by the rule of law and with the court's decision at hand, the Assembly will discharge its mandate to vet Anne Kananu." The development could place Kananu in pole position to succeed Governor Sonko, adding a new twist to what is already an untidy leadership saga in Nairobi.
It automatically means that the provisions of Article 181 and 182 will take effect and should actually then automatically also ascend to the seat of governorship. To that particular extent, they will also then, by virtue of that particular process, it will also dispense off with the need of a by-election in terms of the Nairobi City County.
The by-election, which was initially slated for 18th of February leadership saga in Nairobi, has since been suspended by the courts pending a petition filed by the ousted governor. Elfas Lagat, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Well, the Nairobi leadership saga forms the basis of our interview tonight. Joining me in studio is Geoffrey Majiwa, the Deputy Speaker in the Nairobi County Assembly. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight. Help us first understand why, as the County Assembly, you're proposing to vet Anne Mwenda Kananu, knowing very well the court had suspended her vetting because they had reason to believe she had been nominated in an unprocedural manner. Why do you now feel it's okay to go ahead?
Thank you. The reason why we have decided to go ahead with it is because already it was as an assembly property. It was an item that we had actually brought before the assembly because already the communication that had been done in the assembly meant that already the governor had communicated to us this name and we had taken it as our property. Now we were dealing with it. Why we stopped is because the court actually issued an injunction. And court by issuing an injunction does not mean that they killed it. They only held it temporarily because of certain reasons that they felt were not clear to them. But now that the court has actually adjudicated the matter and so that it is actually fit for Anne to continue with the process.
Is that really what happened?
Yes, exactly. That's what happened.
Some would say that the petitioner simply withdrew the case.
The petitioner withdraws, but he has to withdraw within the legal parameters. He withdrew from the court. He went to court. The court had also a reason to refuse. But when the court decided to allow the withdrawal, it means the court had looked at it and saw that even the person who was withdrawing had no proper reason of coming to the court. That's why he withdrew the case.
You see it from a very interesting perspective. What happens to the issues that the petitioner raised in the first place? Is that something that concerns you as a county assembly? For example, he questioned how this nomination could possibly contravene orders issued by the anti-corruption court against Sonko then, who had been charged with graft. Could a Sonko who had been charged with graft procedurally nominate a deputy? That's one. They also asked about the timing of her nomination, arguing that there's a high possibility that she could be seen to interfere with an investigation that involved the person who nominated her, the governor then. Again, as a county assembly, do you not see issues with that?
Why do you want us to see issues with only the nomination of Anne Kananu and not so many other duties that Sonko carried on even after being in court?
That's the matter before us tonight.
Sonko did so many other things. Kananu's issue was only one of them, but he did so many other things actually after going to court process. So it doesn't mean that when Anne's issue was one of them, we have to actually look at Anne and close our eyes to the others that he did. In fact, Anne's issue is very small compared to so many other things that Sonko did after coming from court. So we can't actually discriminate on Anne and say that she was nominated after the governor had been taken to court.
Okay, well, Sonko is also not here, so we won't talk about all the things he did. As a county assembly, you know what happened with that impeachment. Yes. So, which then makes me wonder, so how is this then going to play out? Let's say you clear her, for example, then what next? She then starts acting as the deputy governor with the speaker as the acting governor? How? That's a scenario we've never seen before.
The speaker is only acting in the absence of the governor. Once we clear Anne and the process goes to the full length, then it definitely means that Anne becomes the deputy governor. When the deputy governor is in office, then the deputy speaker, the acting governor, who is the speaker, comes back to his office.
But the Constitution only envisions a scenario when the speaker goes back to office when a new governor has been sworn in after being elected.
Yes.
Article 182. So how are you interpreting this differently?
That is in a scenario now where we don't have the deputy governor. But you see, here now, Anne was a property that was already within the assembly. She was actually nominated before the governor was impeached.
But she was
so
not
if it were not for the court order, actually by now should have been the deputy governor.
But she was not a substantive deputy governor. Do you not see an issue with that? That when Sonko was impeached, there was no deputy governor in office?
Well, but there was a name that already was in the assembly that was just awaiting the processing. It was only injuncted by the court. But the fact that the court injuncted the process does not mean that it was not existing. It was existing within the assembly, and it is our role to make sure that we go through with the process now that the court has allowed us.
Okay, let's talk scenarios. What happens if she then becomes a deputy governor, she starts acting as the governor, someone moves to court and says there are two governors in Nairobi. There's the speaker, who's still the governor until an election is held, as per the Constitution, and there's Anne, who's now the deputy governor, who
they can never be.
Can you see how someone could?
They can never be two. They can never be two at the same time, because the existence of the deputy governor, the deputy governor, actually clears the existence of the acting governor. Automatically, when Anne takes position, then the acting governor, who is the speaker, comes back to his office. There's no way there are going to be two of them there.
Will there be a by-election in Nairobi?
Well, that I can't say, because we have to go through with this process, and if we process it properly and then it gets to conclusion, then we'll be having a deputy governor. And you know, when we have a deputy governor, I don't have to answer you what will happen after that.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Geoffrey Majiwa, Deputy Speaker, Nairobi County Assembly, helping us understand a little bit about the place we find ourselves in. In case any of you are asking, just remind us again, Anne Mwendwa Kananu, tell us a bit more about her. This is a few details we have regarding her. She was born in Embu County, May 1980, possibly the next governor of Nairobi County, I must add. She is and has been the Nairobi County Chief Officer for disaster management and coordination, a post she holds up until today. Now, she previously served as a security supervisor in charge of quality training and control at the Kenya Airports Authority for 13 years. In terms of her qualifications, she holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminology and Security Management from the Dedan Kimathi University. This was back in 2016. In addition, she has a diploma in Criminology and Security Management from St. Paul's University, undertaken, and she graduated, I believe, in 2013. And in terms of her training, she's been trained in disaster management and security, may I add, as well as active shooting and hostage rescue training. A few details about the Deputy Governor nominee that the Nairobi County Assembly would be vetting on the 15th of January 2021. Let's switch gears now. Schools have shifted their focus to inventing various ways to facilitate smooth learning, even as learners continue to stream back to school. At the Ololua Primary School in Kajiado County, several classes are already taking place under trees. 7 cabinet secretaries toured the institution to assess its state of preparedness. Makori Ongechi reports on the measures schools are implementing to facilitate learning amidst COVID-19's disruption.
The 7 cabinet secretaries' strong delegation made its way to Ololua Primary School in Ngong, Kajiado County, assessing the level of preparedness among pupils in the school. Their arrival coinciding with a grade 4 lesson that was underway. The music lesson was one of a kind, happening right under the shadows of this tree. For the 45 minutes that the lesson took place, learners were actively involved. Professor Magoa hailed the lesson.
It must be innovative. The best classroom here today is that classroom under that tree. And the reason is very simple. Trees add oxygen to the air and take away carbon dioxide. And so as far as children are concerned, that is the best classroom.
For learners here, a lot has changed from last year when they left. Now they are required to occasionally wash their hands. They are keen on how and whether they have worn their masks. Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who led the delegation, said the government was working to deliver on a successful full school reopening amidst the global pandemic. All principal secretaries have been tasked with touring the 47 counties to assess the preparedness of learning institutions and ensure all learners are back in session.
We are all pulling together as a country, and we are spending all our time around, going to schools, sitting, working with our teachers and other people to make sure this works well.
Schools also keen in regards to learners in lower classes who at some point either forget or abandon the late Ministry of Health protocols.
Children should understand what is to sanitize, what is to mask, what is to keep distance. They should also understand that there are effects of removing a mask, exchanging masks in class, and interaction. Meanwhile, the National Council for Churches in Kenya has urged the government to fast-track delivery of desks to all public schools. With literally the entire cabinet making its way here at Ololua Primary School in Ngong, the pictures behind me of an ongoing grade 4 lesson can only tell the story of the new normal. Makori Ongechi, Citizen TV, at Ololua Primary School, Ngong.
Well, we stay with education updates. With a majority of learners having resumed school, children with special needs based at the Kenya Community Center for Learning in Nairobi are yet to do so. This as the school management is liaising with parents who require some time to explain to their children the new school routine, especially for those with autistic children. Raquel Moigai reports.
The silence at the Kenya Community Center for Learning here in Nairobi is deafening. Save for the chirping of birds in the compound, the walls of these classrooms and therapy rooms will not hold any laughter or cries of the learners with special needs who study here well until next week.
I'm anxious about them coming back, but I know we will manage. We will manage because we have done this before.
The school caters to a population of 100 learners aged between 6 to 21 who could either be dyslexic, autistic, have Down syndrome or cerebral palsy. But as the teachers here await their return to school on Monday, their biggest concern is the autistic children in the school, who total to about 40 pupils.
Even here, we have issues with some of the children keeping their socks on, keeping their shoes on, some sweaters. That touch irritates them. And I am now also foreseeing the same challenge with masking.
Autism spectrum disorder is a group of complex brain development disorders characterized by social, communication and behavioral challenges. Children affected report heightened sensory perception.
When someone is not okay, when having tantrums, we are not able to teach other students until the learner is okay.
Children with autism thrive on routines and dislike uncertainty and restrictions. For some parents, they report that the changes brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic can make their children quite aggressive.
So when we tried to push him to do the online learning, he kind of refused. He couldn't stand the sight of his teacher and it's his classmates on the laptop. So he flatly refused and he would close his ears.
কুড়িগ্রামের ফুলবাড়ী উপজেলার সদর ইউনিয়নের পশ্চিম পানিমাছ কুটি গ্রামে একটি কবর খননের সময় দুপাশের গায়ের মাটিতে আরবি হরফের মতো ছাপ বের হয়ে আসে। এই খবর ছড়িয়ে পড়া
Adapting to the new changes took time, but they did make sense later for 13-year-old Gitemi Murigo. His parents indicating that it has also taken a lot to help him understand that his routine has to change because he will soon resume school.
So we've been trying to coach him and tell him November you go back to school. And now he was saying, no, school is bad. I don't want to go back to school. Yeah. So we pushed. Then come now December, we started fitting him his uniform so that he can register that for real in January I'm going back to school. He's slowly starting to accept that he's going back to school.
But just like Gitemi's teachers, his parents are also worried about the new changes.
Children with autism are very loving. So they like hugging, they like greeting each other, greeting teachers, hugging, kissing. And so with our new normal, this will not be possible. So we are just trusting God that they will cope well. And that I don't know how they will be handled, but I'm trusting there will be good arrangements.
It's going to be tough, but it's something we are looking forward to doing, because at the end of the day, it would also be very sad to keep these children home.
Gitemi's parents say he's excited by the idea of going back to school. His teachers ready for the challenges that come with those like Gitemi adjusting to the new routine after 9 months. For them, taking one day at a time is best. Raquel Migai, Citizen TV.
Thank you, Raquel, for that particular report. Let's now get the latest COVID-19 statistics. Sadly, 8 patients have passed on over the last 24 hours, raising the COVID-19 death toll to 1,702 since the pandemic was first reported in Kenya. 334 people tested positive from a sample size of 5,424, yielding a positivity rate of 6.1%. Now, people recovering raised the toll to 80,306. 536 patients are admitted in various hospitals across the country, with 29 of them in intensive care units. The National Council of Churches of Kenya, NCCK, has called on the government to facilitate civic education on the contents of the Building Bridges Initiative report to ensure that citizens can understand and make an informed decision. The clergy also noted that issues surrounding the electoral body, IEBC, need to be addressed before the 2022 general election.
The clergymen in their latest call to action are rooting for civic education ahead of everything else on the Building Bridges Initiative push for constitutional amendments. The Council's National Executive Committee noting that it is still early to pass the BBI Bowl to Kenyans to decide on the document they know little about.
This executive committee notes that the country continues to be heavily focused on the proposed referendum on the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, popularly known as BBI. The country, therefore, remains politically split, thereby hampering concerted efforts to address the COVID-19 pandemic and the suffering of Kenyans as we have highlighted.
And to avoid a disputed election, as has been the norm every general election, the council wants issues surrounding the electoral body, IEBC, prioritized before the country goes into a referendum and the 2022 general election.
Required attention has not been put in readiness to the constitutionally scheduled elections in 2022. In this regard, the Council urges and reminds the country that the challenges that affected the 2017 general elections have not been addressed.
NCCK wants the national and county governments to dialogue with striking healthcare workers to resolve the standoff that has threatened to paralyze operations in healthcare facilities.
We especially urge the Ministry of Health and the Council of Governors to quickly sit down with the health workers and resolve this crisis once and for all to secure the people of Kenya.
The NCCK Executive Committee, in its meeting at Jumuiya Conference and Country Home, said it was deeply concerned about the deepening crisis in the health sector.
The Council of Eminent Persons of Murang'a County held a sitting with Murang'a Senator Irungu Kang'ata over his conversion letter to President Uhuru Kenyatta on the BBI process. The council says it wanted to understand the context in which the senator authored the letter, which has elicited mixed reactions in the country. The eminent persons say their main concern is to ensure peaceful coexistence for different political factions in Murang'a County. Sam Gituku reports.
The Murang'a senator has remained tight-lipped following his letter to the president, whose content became bare Sunday last week. The Council of Eminent Persons of Murang'a now seeking clarification from the senator on the letter that has generated a heated debate in Murang'a and the rest of the country.
We, as eminent persons, wazee elders from Murang'a, we had to find out from Senator Kang'ata the authenticity of that letter, whether it was his letter and all that. So that's the discussion we were having. We talked for about 2 hours or so.
The council members keeping the details of their deliberations confidential, but admitting some of their concerns.
We are very happy that he came and we discussed the whole matter. And basically all we can say is that we expressed our opinion as to the procedure which was followed for writing the letter, and we gave our views and our opinions. So he is aware of our feelings. But we did not call him, for example, to reprimand him, because there is nothing for us to reprimand anybody about.
The council insists that BBI is an important agenda that requires national attention.
As far as the question of the BBI is concerned, because it has got so many good policy issues in it, we like it. In fact, we love it. After all, it comes from the, well, shall we say, golden handshake between our beloved president and the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. So we have always supported the handshake, and we now support the BBI.
Kang'ata's New Year action would appear to have propelled Murang'a County back to the national political contest, now standing as a battleground for the rival Jubilee factions.
Whether there is Tanga, whether there is Kieleweke, all these people are all entitled to be there. And they will continue doing their own job the way they know how best to do it. We ourselves can only advise.
When he left the meeting, Senator Kang'ata declined to speak to journalists, promising to do so when ready. Sam Gituku, Citizen TV.
And on that note, we're due for our first break. Let's go to that. And when we come back, more news for you. Remember, the SMS line is 22422, hashtag tonight. And I'll be reading some of your feedback on the other side. And we have those stories as well.
Court detains man who confessed to molesting 2 daughters pending a sentence.
News reports about the violence that children face.
We face sexual violence that tears our lives apart. We are beaten in our homes where we're supposed to be safe and even in school. We are insulted and berated.
If you see me being sexually abused, stop it.
If you see me being beaten, stop it.
If you see me being hit, stop it.
If you see me being bullied, stop it.
The violence against us will not end until you stop it. And the stories will remain the same until you change them.
Any form of violence against children is wrong. Report cases of abuse to a trusted adult, children's officers, the police, or call the Child Helpline 116. Spot it and stop it.
Close Up Deep Action with antibacterial formula and deep cleaning gel keeps your teeth clean and protected. Close Up Deep Action. Enjoy long-lasting fresh breath and more.
Go Ahead is believing to make each day a brighter day. The confidence to create opportunity. It's those small acts that go a long way. Going Ahead is us changing our communities to go ahead. Now, that is the Kenyan spirit.
But sometimes I'm forced to stop and hit Dayo's warning.
We have a big problem. Bigger than the one I'm looking at?
Ushindi Cream Bar Soap.